the dilution of languages and the increasing level of monolingualism. It's sewed into every portion of our increasingly global lives. The most notable example of this shift comes in our current lingua franca, English. While enduring an exponential expansion as the most used translinguistic method of communication, its saturation has led to a horrifying massacre whose bloodshed has seldom been noticed by the major language-speaking population. Every 2 weeks, a language dies with its last speaker. 50 to 90% of them all are predicted to disappear by the end of the century. How this is so devastating may be unclear to the average lover of efficiency and even the good-intended individual. Why do we need so many languages, they may ask? If we only had one, we could all communicate and understand each other. Isn't that a good thing? While this would in some ways be true, we would dramatically shrink the scope of our mental and cognitive diversity and by product our abilities. Language is, after all, a direct reflection of human cognition. Just think of the distorted picture we would have if only English or Mandarin were available for study. For anthropology and human evolutionary biology, languages trace the history and geography of the species. The extinction of language can be like the burning of a library of historical documents or the extinction of the last species in a phylum. But the reasons are not just scientific. As Michael E. Krauss, an American comparative linguist, put it, any language is a supreme achievement of a uniquely human collective genius, as divine and endless a mystery of a living organism. A language is a medium which cultures, verse, literature, and song can never be extricated. So how does one stop the onslaught of constant domineering language that is being ever expanded in our world? School classes and language learning books rarely produce students who can speak at comfortable levels with native speakers. The answer is actually one of counterintuition. The solution to the globalization of major languages in media and in our world is in fact the globalization of media, more specifically in streaming sites. This includes platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, Netflix, Disney+, and the like. While a limited number of languages dominate media servers, servers also allow for the easiest ever access to media of all languages, in varieties of those native speakers who understand these major languages as a result of globalization. This allows for easy guidance for translation and progression of skill in a language that once seemed out of reach and not worth investing time in. The naturality and newfound pleasure of learning languages through media have already made learning languages easier for all individuals. The only piece missing is the nudge to get more and more users to expand their streaming habits outside of their native or known languages, i.e., make it trend enough to catch more than a group of avid language lovers or hipsters' attention. If these languages just remain understood solely as curious novelties rather than a method of regular communication, their demise will barely be but delayed. Think about any trend that has taken the public's attention by storm. What do they all have in common? The vocalization of high-profile individuals in the media. This includes anything from actors, musicians, politicians, and even YouTubers. The silly concept of someone popular making something cool is actually the situation endangered languages need to gain any sort of traction and to survive. Imagine if someone like Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, was seen in movies performing a few notable scenes in Samoan and actively promoting his viewers to learn the language. Considering the actor has already raised awareness and promoted Polynesian culture before, he is proudly half Samoan after all, it isn't hard to believe that if in the next Fast and Furious movie Luke Hobbs had a few iconic and memorable scenes where he conversed in Samoan, viewers would be avidly learning the scene's lines and possibly developing a further interest in the language. Overall, these streaming sites are ironically both endangered languages' savior and guillotine master, and it all depends on how we as a civilization decide to use it. They provide the platform and material for us to keep these dying tongues alive, and if we are able to make their media and content mainstream in common practice via social influence, we could stop the impending plague. If we don't, the sudden and silent death of all these languages and byproduct cultures, traditions, and personalities will sweep over humanity.